Hey guys, tonight we are going to explore one of history's oddest and, dare I say, coziest jobs, the professional Tudor bed. It's a role that sounds both ridiculous and, on a cold winter's night, ridiculously appealing. Before we begin, a small and friendly warning. You probably wouldn't survive this. Not the job itself, perhaps, but the era. We're talking no central heating, no antibiotics, and a level of hygiene that would make your modern sensibilities curl up and wither. But tonight, we're just borrowing the good parts, the quiet, the flickering candlelight, and the strange comfort of a very peculiar profession. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a small, quiet way to support the channel, and it's always appreciated. And if you have a moment, I'd love to see where in the world you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see this little sleepy community scattered across the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The air in the grate. Servants' hall is thick with the day's lingering ghosts, the smell of wood, roasting meat, damp wool, and the faint, sour temps of spilled ale. You are sitting on a long, heavy trestle bench, your back pressed against the cold, unyielding stone of the manor wall. The day is finally done, or at least, the main part of it is. Your muscles ache with a familiar, deep-seated weariness from hauling water, scrubbing flagstones, and being perpetually in someone's way. Around you, the dregs of the household staff are winding down. Two stable hands are locked in a silent, intense game of knucklebones in the corner. The click-clack of the polished sheep bones, a soft, rhythmic counterpoint to the crackle and spit of the enormous fireplace. You nurse a pewter mug of small beer a week, watery brew, that's more hydrating than intoxicating, which is probably for the best. The light is dim, cast by a handful of sputtering rushlights dotted along the tables. One sits near your elbow, a thin reed dipped in mutton fat, giving off a greasy, organic smell, and a light so feeble it seems to be losing its battle against the encroaching shadows. You watch the tiny flame waver, its smoky tail dancing in the drafts that snick through the hall. It's a minor miracle the whole place doesn't go up in flames on a weekly basis. But then, you've grown accustomed to the constant low-level threat of disaster. It's just part of the background noise of life. Dinner was hours ago. As usual, you and the others received the leftovers from the high table upstairs. Tonight, that meant a hearty, if slightly unappetizing pie. This is the origin of a phrase you'd never know will exist: eating humble pie. The umbles, the heart, liver, and other innards of the deer shot by the master on his huntar. What's left for the lower household? It fills the belly, and that's what matters. You can still taste the heavy, iron-rich flavor of it on your tongue. It's a solid, grounding meal. A far cry from the delicate sugared almonds and spiced wines you know are being consumed in the grand chambers above. You let your gaze drift across the hall. Everyone is etched in shadow and flickering light. A young scullery maid, no older than 12, is fast asleep with her head on her arms, her breathing a soft, rhythmic puff. The head cook is sharing a joke with the steward, their deep chuckles momentarily rising above the murmur. Historians still wonder about the true nature of these downstairs worlds. Was it a tight-knit family, a band of misfits united by grueling work and a shared sense of place? Or was it a more precarious ecosystem, a quiet battlefield of gossip, petty jealousies, and constant jockeying for a slightly better position, a warmer spot by the fire, a less stale piece of bread? You suspect it's a bit of both. You see the genuine camaraderie, the shared glances of understanding when the master or mistress is in a foul mood. But you also feel the sharp edges of the hierarchy, the unspoken rules that govern who can speak to whom, who gets the seat farthest from the draft, and who has to feign interest in the housekeeper's endless complaints about the quality of the latest batch of soap. You, however, exist in a slightly strange nook of this ecosystem. Your day is filled with the same mundane tasks as many of the other general servants, but as the evening deepens and the hall begins to empty, a quiet sense of anticipation settles in your stomach. Your most important work is yet to come, while the stable hands and kitchen maids will soon trudge off to their shared cold dormitories, destined for lumpy straw mattresses and thin, scratchy blankets. You have a final, unique duty. A duty that is both absurdly intimate and deeply impersonal. You are waiting for a signal, a quiet nod from the housekeeper, who is currently watching the dwindling crowd with the sharp, discerning eye of a hawk. Your job for the night isn't over. In a way, it's just about to begin. You are the prelude to someone else's comfort, the living ghost who haunts the master's bed before he even arrives. You are, for all intents and purposes, a human hot water bottle, and your shift is about to start. You watch her from across the hall. Mrs. Gable, the housekeeper. She stands near the main passage out of the hall, her posture as rigid as a fence post. She is a woman carved from duty and Dillwater, and her expression is permanently set to mildly disappointed in your entire existence. Her dress is dark, practical wool, devoid of any frivolous lace or ribbon, and on her belt hangs the heavy, clinking symbol of her office, a shep. It's a magnificent jumble of polished steel, from which dangles a formidable collection of keys. Keys to the linen press, the pantry, the spice cabinets, the wine cellar. Each one represents a small kingdom of which she is the undisputed queen. It's like a medieval janitor's key ring, but with the added authority to grant or deny access to cheese. She's not looking at you, not directly. Her gaze sweeps the room in a slow, methodical appraisal, noting the sleeping maid, the gambling stable hands, the smudges of soot on the mantelpiece that someone will have to answer for tomorrow. You've learned to read her movements, the subtle language of her disapproval. A slight tightening of her lips means the small beer is weaker than usual. A slow blink means she's calculating the cost of the extra firewood being burned. You are an expert in the silent, one-sided conversation of her presence. And then it happens. Her gaze finally flickers towards you. It's not a stare, not even a glance. It's a connection that lasts less than a second, a brief, sharp acknowledgement. Her head gives a barely perceptible nod, a downward motion so slight that anyone else would miss it, but you don't. That tiny gesture is a cannon blast in the quiet landscape of your evening. It means the master has finished his late-night strategizing, or his cards, or his quiet brooding by the fire. It means he will be retiring soon. It means the bed, a vast and frigid landscape of linen and goose down, requires your services. You place your empty mug down on the rough wood of the table, the pewter making a soft, dull thud. You push yourself up from the bench, your joints groaning in quiet protest. The warmth from the fire that had been seeping into your back is gone, and the cold stone wall feels like a slab of ice. A few of the other servants notice your departure, but no one says anything. Your nightly ritual is a known, if slightly strange, part of the household rhythm. It sets you apart, and in a world built on rigid categories, being apart is a strange and sometimes lonely place to be. As you walk towards Mrs. Gable, you can't help but notice the small, silver pomanda that also hangs from her It's a little perforated ball, intricately carved, containing a tightly packed wad of cloves, dried lavender, and other herbs. Every so often, she lifts it discreetly to her nose, a silent, personal rebellion against the smells of the world she so meticulously manages. You wonder what she really thinks of your job. Historians debate the private feelings of women like her, who wielded so much domestic power, yet were still servants. Does she see this as a practical, sensible solution to a cold room, another task to be managed with efficiency? Or does a flicker of absurdity, of humor, ever cross her mind? Does she go to her own solitary room, kick off her sensible shoes, and think, well, time to send the human bed warmer off to do their strange, warm thing. You'll never know. Her face is a fortress. Asterisk, you stop a respectful distance from her. She doesn't look at you, but speaks in a low, even tone that cuts through the hall's low murmur. His lordship is in his study. He will be up within the hour. Do not be slow about it. Asterisk, no, Mrs. Gable, you reply, your own voice feeling small in the cavernous space. Asterisk, she turns her head just enough to inspect you. Her eyes, the color of winter dishwater, scan you from head to toe. She's not checking for your health or well-being. She's checking for dirt. Her standards of cleanliness are so high, she probably expects the mice to wipe their feet. She seems satisfied that you won't be tracking stable muck into the master's chambers. She unhooks a single, small tallow candle from her belt, already lit, and hands it to you. It's a step up from a rushlight, a sign that your mission is considered important. Its flame is brighter, steadier, and be silent, she adds, as if it were an afterthought, but it's the most important instruction of all. Be present, be warm, but above all, be nothing. Be a ghost, made of body heat. Asterisk. You step out of the servants' hall, and into a different world. The transition is immediate and absolute. The air grows colder, damper, and the familiar, almost cozy chaos of the hall is replaced by a deep, stone and shadow silence. You are now in the labyrinth of service corridors that forms the unseen circulatory system of the great house. These are the passages the family and their guests never see. The veins through which the lifeblood of the manor food, laundry, firewood, and servants like you is pumped. The walls are rough, undressed stone, slick with a perpetual film of cold moisture that glints in the wavering light of your tallow candle. The floor is made of uneven flagstones, worn into smooth, shallow depressions over the years by the endless parade of hurried, weary feet. Asterisk, your candle flame, which seemed so bright just moments ago, now feels like a tiny, fragile spark against the oppressive darkness. It casts your shadow long and distorted against the walls, making you look like a giant, shambling creature of the night. You hold the candle holder carefully, shielding the flame with a cupped hand as you move, because a sudden draft could plunge you into absolute, disorienting blackness. It has happened before, and the feeling of being lost and sightless in the guts of the house, with only the cold, damp stone for company, is not one you are eager to repeat. Asterisk, you pass the kitchens. They are no longer the bustling, hellishly hot nerve center they were during the day. The great fires in the hearths have been banked, reduced to glowing red embers that pulse like sleeping hearts in the darkness. The air still holds the memory of cooking, a phantom scent of baked bread and boiled vegetables, but it's overlaid with the clean, sharp smell of lye soap and scrubbed clean wooden surfaces. The pots and pans, scoured by the scullery maids until their arms ached, hang in neat, orderly rows, their copper and iron surfaces gleaming faintly in your candlelight. It is a room at rest, a beast put to sleep for the night. You can hear a soft dripping sound from a leaky water barrel in the corner, a slow, steady plink, plink, plink. That makes the silence feel even deeper. Asterisk, you continue on, your soft-soled leather shoes making almost no sound on the stones. This is a skill you have perfected, the art of silent movement. You know which flagstones are loose and liable to rock, which floorboards in the upper passages will groan if you put your full weight on them. You are a map of the house's secret sounds. This skill is, in fact, a crucial part of your job. A noisy bed warmer is a failed bed-warmer. Asterisk, you pass a narrow, steep staircase leading down into the cellars. A wave of cold, earthy air, smelling of damp soil, root vegetables, and aging wine barrels, washes over you. You hurry past. The cellars have a reputation for being haunted, not by grand aristocratic ghosts, but by the miserable spirits of former servants who met unhappy ends. You don't necessarily believe in ghosts, but you don't disbelieve in them either. In a house this old, soaked in so much history and human drama. It seems plausible that some of it might have left a stain. Asterisk historians often focus on the grand rooms of these houses, the tapestries and the portraits, but it's these humble, functional spaces that tell the real story of how life was lived. They are a testament to a world of immense labor, a world where the comfort of the few was built, quite literally, on the constant, unseen toil of the many. You wonder if the master has ever set foot in these corridors. Could he even find his way from the kitchens to the pantry? It seems unlikely. This is your territory. While he may own the house, you are the one who knows its secrets, its creaks, its drafts, its hidden heart. Asterisk, you reach a small, unassuming wooden door at the end of the passage. It's made of plain, vertical planks with a simple iron latch. This door is a border crossing. On this side, you are a servant in the service corridors. On the other side, you will be an almost invisible functionary in the opulent world of the family. You pause for a moment, listening. Nothing. You lift the latch, which you know has been meticulously oiled by a diligent page boy, and it moves with a soft, satisfying click. You pull the door open and slip through, closing it gently behind you. The change in atmosphere is as palpable as stepping from a cellar into a meadow. The air is warmer here, drier, and smells faintly of beeswax, polish, and dried flowers. You have crossed the threshold. The next part of your journey takes you up into the main body of the house, into the quiet domain of your employers. Asterisk, you are standing at the bottom of the great staircase. The transition is jarring. Gone are the low, damp stone corridors. Here, the ceiling soars 2 stories high into a darkness that your small candle cannot possibly penetrate. The staircase itself is a marvel of carpentry, a wide, sweeping structure of dark, polished oak that creaks with the dignified groans of old age. During the day, this space is flooded with light from a massive window on the landing, illuminating the rich wood and the intricate carvings on the banister. But now, at night, it is a river of shadow, and you feel impossibly small at its base. Asterisk, your candlelight catches the edges of the carvings as you begin to ascend. The newel post at the bottom is a fierce-looking griffin, its wooden claws clutching a smooth, polished globe. You place your free hand on its head for a moment, a familiar, grounding gesture. The wood is cool and silky smooth from the touch of 1,000 hands. As you climb, you run your fingers along the banister, feeling the dips and grooves of the carved acorns and oak leaves that twist their way up its length. This is a level of craftsmanship you rarely encounter in your own world. The benches in the servants' hall are functional, heavy slabs of wood. This staircase is a work of art, designed to project power and permanence. It's meant to awe visitors, to remind them of the wealth and status of the family who built it. And even now, in the near-total darkness, it still manages to do just that. Asterisk, you take the steps one at a time, moving with a slow, deliberate pace. This is not a place to hurry. The silence here is different from the silence of the service passages. Down there, the quiet felt functional, a space between tasks. Here, the quiet is heavy, almost sacred. It's the sound of wealth, the sound of a house so large that its occupants can exist without ever hearing one another. Every sound you make, no matter how small, feels like a violation. The soft scuff of your shoe, the whisper of your woolen clothes, the slight crackle of your candle, they all seem deafeningly loud. Asterisk, halfway up, you pass the portraits. They are vast, dark squares on the walls, their subjects lost in the gloom. Your candle flame throws just enough light to catch a disembodied detail here and there, the ghostly pale lace of a ruff, the glint in a painted eye that seems to follow you as you move, the faint gleam of a pearl earring. These are the ancestors, stern-faced men with severe beards, and women with pious, unsmiling expressions. They are the silent, eternal audience to the life of the house. You wonder what they would think of your strange profession. Would they be horrified? Amused? Or would they just see it as another sensible, practical aspect of running a large and drafty estate? Given the sheer number of layers of clothing they're all wearing in their portraits, they were probably no strangers to the cold. Asterisk, this is a widely accepted historical fact. These grand houses were notoriously bone-chillingly cold. They were designed to look impressive, not to be thermally efficient. With their huge, single-paned windows, high ceilings, and uninsulated stone walls, they were basically just very fancy refrigerators. The massive fireplaces were the only source of heat, and their warmth rarely extended more than a few feet into the room. Stepping away from the fire was like stepping off a cliff into an icy sea. Hence, the need for things like heavy tapestries on the walls to block drafts, thick bed curtains, and, of course, you. Asterisk, you reach the landing, a wide, open space that separates the 2 flights of stairs. Here the darkness is even more profound. You can feel the vast emptiness of the main hall below you. You pause for a second, listening. You can hear the wind moaning softly outside, rattling a loose shutter somewhere on the far side of the house. It's a lonely, mournful sound. Historians still wonder about the psychological effects of living in such space as the constant quiet, the oppressive darkness at night, the sheer scale of it all. Did it make people feel powerful and secure, or small and isolated? Perhaps, like you, they just got used to it. Asterisk, you start up the 2nd flight of stairs, which leads to the family's private chambers. This part of the ascent always feels more transgressive. You are entering the most personal part of the house, a space you are meant to occupy, but not truly belong in. The portraits on this level are of the current family. You pass the mistress, her expression captured in paint as one of serene, slightly bored elegance. Then the children, looking stiff and unnatural in their miniature adult clothing. And finally, the master. His painted eyes seem to hold the same stern, calculating expression he wears in life. You avoid his gaze, even though it's just oil and canvas. It feels safer that way. Asterisk, you reach the top of the stairs. A long, wide corridor stretches out before you, carpeted with a thick runner that swallows the sound of your footsteps. The air up here is distinctly warmer, and you can smell the lingering scent of his lordship's pipe tobacco, a sweet, rich aroma that hangs in the air. You are close now. Your heart beats a little faster, a familiar flutter of nervous energy. The journey is almost over. The final door awaits. The corridor is a gallery of closed doors. Each heavy oak panel represents a private world, a self-contained universe of sleep and privacy that you will never see. You pass the mistress's chambers, then the nursery, where you can sometimes hear the faint, soft breathing of the children if you listen closely. Tonight, there is only silence. Your destination is at the very end of the hall, the master's suite. It is the largest and most imposing door of them all, a statement of authority rendered in wood and iron. The oak is nearly black with age and polish, and its surface is studded with a pattern of large, round-headed iron nails. It looks less like a bedroom door, and more like the entrance to a fortress. You stop a few feet away from it, standing in the pool of your own flickering candlelight. This is the final checkpoint. The master is not yet in his bedchamber. As Mrs. Gable informed you, he is still in his study, likely reviewing estate accounts or reading letters by the fire. Your job is to prepare the bed before he arrives, but the timing is a delicate art. Arrive too early, and the warmth you create will have dissipated by the time he gets there. Arrive too late, and you risk an awkward, unacceptable encounter in the corridor, or, even worse, in the room itself. The unspoken rule is that you are to be neither seen nor heard by the master. You are a creature of the moments in between, so you wait. You stand perfectly still, your ears straining for any sound that might signal his approach. The house is a living thing, and you have learned to interpret its subtle language. You listen for the distant, solid thud of a door closing downstairs. The study door, perhaps. You listen for the sound of his heavy, booted footsteps on the wooden floors of the lower level. The thick runner beneath your feet muffles any sound in this corridor, but you know that sound travels strangely in this house, echoing up stairwells and through unseen gaps in the walls. This moment of waiting is always the most nerve-wracking part of the job. It's a strange, suspended state of being. You are on the threshold of one of the most private spaces in the house, a room you will occupy with an almost surreal intimacy, yet you are completely detached from it. You are a tool, waiting to be used. You pass the time by studying the details your candle reveals. You notice the intricate patterns in the woven wool of the carpet runner, repeating design of stylized vines and Tudor roses. You look at the door itself, at the complex iron lock mechanism. It has a keyhole the size of your thumb, a testament to the value placed on privacy and security, even within the family home. A quirky detail of the time is the sheer paranoia surrounding personal security, especially for the wealthy. Poisoning was a real and ever-present fear, as were thieves and assassins. This is why a high-ranking noble might have a groom of the stool, a trusted servant who monitored his bowel movements for signs of illness or poison. Your job, in a way, is a much cozier, less invasive version of that. You are part of the complex web of servants who exist to ensure the master's comfort and safety, even in the most mundane ways. Being a human bed warmer isn't just about warmth. It's also about ensuring the bed hasn't been tampered with, that no unpleasant surprises or people are hiding between the sheets. You are the first line of defense against a cold and potentially hostile bed. Suddenly, you hear it. It's not a loud noise. It's a faint, deep, scraping sound from far below, followed by the muffled thud of a heavy piece of furniture being moved, the chair being pushed back. Then, a few moments of silence. You hold your breath. This is the signal. He is done for the night. You estimate you have about 5 minutes, maybe 10, before he begins his own slow ascent up the great staircase. The window of opportunity is open. You move forward, your heart thumping a steady, nervous rhythm against your ribs. You don't knock. Knocking would imply a request for entry, a conversation. Your presence is not a request. It's a function. You place your hand on a large, cold iron ring that serves as the door handle. It feels heavy and unforgiving in your palm. Taking a steadying breath, you turn it. The latch mechanism gives a loud, mechanical clunk that seems to echo through the entire house. For a terrifying second, you freeze, certain that the noise will summon someone, that you've made a terrible mistake. But there is only silence. You push the heavy door inward and slip into the darkness of the master's bedchamber, pulling the door closed behind you with a soft click. The final stage of your journey has begun. You are now inside the master's bedchamber. The moment the door clicks shut behind you, the world is reduced to the small, wavering halo of your candle. The air in here is heavy with the scent of him, that same pipe tobacco you smelled in the hall, but stronger now, mixed with the faint, pleasant aroma of old books, beeswax, and something else, a subtle, musky scent that is uniquely his. The room is vast and filled with monstrous shapes that slowly resolve themselves as your eyes adjust. Your first impression is one of overwhelming size and shadow. This is the heart of the master's power, his most private sanctuary, and it is designed to impress even when empty. Your task is singular and immediate. The bed. It dominates the room, a colossal piece of furniture that is more like a small building than a place to sleep. It's a 4-poster bed, but that term feels inadequate. It's a fortress of slumber, 4 thick, ornately carved oak posts, each as thick as a small tree trunk, hold up a heavy wooden canopy, or tester, high above. From this canopy hang thick, luxurious curtains of deep crimson velvet, lined with silk. During the day, they are tied back to the posts with heavy gold tassels. At night, they are drawn, creating a small, self-contained room within the room, a vital barrier against the cold and, some believed, against evil spirits or night air thought to carry sickness. You place your candle on a nearby chest, its flame casting dancing shadows across the floor. You approach the bed with a sense of reverence. This is not just a piece of furniture. It is the single most expensive object in the entire house, more valuable than the paintings, the silver, even the land itself to some. The sheer amount of fabric in the hangings and bedding represented an astronomical sum of money. The mattress, a deep, lumpy affair, is stuffed not with the common straw you're used to, but with layers of soft wool, and, at the very top, a thick featherbed filled with the finest goose, which has to be vigorously plumped and aired out daily. Your first step is the inspection. You pull back the heavy coverlet, a tapestry-like weaving of dark greens and golds, and fold it carefully at the foot of the bed. Beneath it are several woolen blankets, and then, finally, the fine linen sheets. Linen was a luxury. It felt smoother and cleaner against the skin than wool or rough homespun cloth, but it was notoriously cold to the touch. This is the very problem you are here to solve. You run your hands over the top sheet, feeling for any dampness. In a house like this, dampness was a constant battle, seeping into fabrics and chilling the bone. The sheet feels cold, yes, but thankfully dry. Next, you smooth everything. This is a ritual. You pull the top sheet taut, then the blankets, one by one, your movements efficient and practiced. No wrinkles, no lumps. The housekeeper, Mrs. Gable, is famously particular about this. You imagine she could detect a pea under these layers of bedding. Not because she's a princess, but because she's a terrifyingly competent manager. As you work, your fingers brush against the embroidery on the pillowcases. It's the family crest, stitched in delicate, precise detail with silk thread. It's another small reminder of whose world this is. You are just a temporary, warm-blooded visitor. This practice of having a servant physically warm the bed was a real, if uncommon, luxury reserved for the very wealthy. The more common method was to use a bed warmer, a long-handled brass or copper pan with a hinged lid. Servants would fill the pan with hot coals from the fire, close the lid, and then slide it between the sheets to warm the space. But this method was not without its risks. An ember could escape and set the bed alight, a catastrophic disaster, or the pan could leave scorch marks and a sooty smell on the expensive linens. The human method, while extravagant, was safer and, arguably, more effective. It provided a gentle, evenly distributed, damp-free heat. Historians debate how widespread this practice truly was. Was it a regular occurrence in great houses, or an exceptional luxury for only the most powerful or eccentric nobles? The records are sparse, as one might expect for such a mundane and intimate task. It was likely a real job, but one that existed in the hazy, undocumented margins of domestic service. It's the kind of detail that doesn't make it into official histories, but lives on in household accounts and, perhaps, in gossip and folklore. Your final preparation is to draw the curtains. You move around the bed, untying the heavy tassels and pulling the thick velvet hangings closed, one by one. The crimson fabric is so heavy it makes a soft, satisfying shushing sound as it moves. With the final curtain drawn, you have created the small, dark, enclosed space you are about to occupy. You are left with a narrow gap, your entry point. The great bed is now a dark, silent tent, a void waiting to be filled with warmth. You take a final look around the room, at the looming shadows of the wardrobe and the glint of silver on a dressing table. Then you turn back to the bed, take a deep breath, and prepare for the strangest part of your day. This is the moment, the culmination of your evening's strange pilgrimage. Standing before the narrow opening in the heavy velvet curtains, you take a moment to compose yourself. You are about to cross the final, most intimate threshold. Your role is simple, yet deeply odd, to become a living, breathing radiator. You are not here to sleep, or to rest, or to dream. You are here to lie perfectly still and shed your body heat into the cold, unforgiving expanse of a rich man's bed. Asterisk, you slip off your soft leather shoes, leaving them neatly on the floor. Entering the bed with shoes on would be an unthinkable crime, a sackable offense of the highest order. The floorboards are cold against the thin wool of your stockings. Then, you lift the corner of the heavy coverlet, the blankets, and the top sheet, holding the layers up with one arm. The air that escapes from between the sheets is frigid, carrying a clean, sterile smell of stored linen and lavender sachets. It's like opening a well-kept tomb. Asterisk, you swing your legs in and slide your body between the sheets, moving with a practiced fluid motion. The cold is immediate and shocking. The linen sheets feel like slabs of ice against your skin, and they seem to actively suck the warmth from your body. It takes a supreme act of will not to gasp or shiver. Any sudden movement or sound is forbidden. You must remain a silent, steady source of heat. You lie down flat on your back, right in the center of the bed, the spot where the master will eventually sleep. You pull the sheets and blankets up to your chin, your arms straight at your sides, over the covers, to maximize the heat transfer from your torso. You are a human ingot, slowly warming your mold. Asterisk, the sheer space around you is disorienting. Your own bed is a narrow, lumpy straw pallet, barely wide enough to turn over, and this bed feels like a vast, empty field. You could stretch your arms and legs out in any direction and touch nothing. The feather bed beneath you is absurdly soft. You sink into it slightly, feeling it cushion your body in a way that is entirely unfamiliar. It's a comfort so profound it's almost uncomfortable. You are not used to this level of luxury. It feels like a trick. Asterisk, you lie there, breathing slowly and shallowly, trying to make as little disturbance as possible. Your only job is to radiate. You focus on the feeling of your own body heat, imagining it spreading outwards from your core, a gentle, persistent wave seeping into the mattress, the feather bed, and the layers of linen and wool. It's a slow process. At first, the cold wins, and you feel a deep chill settling into your bones. But gradually, minute by minute, the laws of thermodynamics begin to work in your favor. The tiny space around your body starts to lose its icy edge. The linen closest to your skin transforms from a hostile, cold surface into a neutral, and then, finally, a warm and comforting embrace. Asterisk, a quirky detail about this job is the absolute necessity of personal cleanliness. You were allowed this role precisely because you were known to be scrupulously clean by Tudor standards, at least. This meant a regular, thorough washing, not just a quick splash of water on the face and hands. You had to be free of any strong personal odors, and certainly free of lice or fleas, the unwelcome companions of most people in this era. In a way, your cleanliness was your primary qualification. You were a clean heat source, unlike a sooty warming pan or a less fastidious servant. You were, in essence, a high-end, organic, hypoallergenic bed-warmer. Asterisk, historians wonder about the psychological state of a person in this position, lying in the dark, in the most intimate space of a powerful person you barely know, forbidden to move or make a sound. Is it terrifying? Mind-numbingly boring? Or is there a strange sense of peace to it? In this moment, for you, it is a mixture of all three. There's the low-level anxiety of being caught, of doing something wrong. There's the profound boredom of simply lying still in the dark. But there is also a strange, meditative quality to it. There are no tasks to perform, no one to answer to. Your only duty is to exist, to be warm. Asterisk, you can feel the heat starting to build now. A small pocket of coziness in the vast cold bed. You have become the epicenter of a miniature heat wave. The feather bed beneath you is holding the warmth, and the layers of blankets on top are trapping it. You have created a perfect human-powered oven. You shift your position ever so slightly. A slow, deliberate movement to a new, colder section of the bed, to begin warming a fresh patch of this frosty territory. The job is not just to warm one spot, but to prepare the entire sleeping area. You are a gentle, methodical heat distribution system, silently and efficiently doing your strange, anachronistic work. You lie perfectly still in the velvet-shrouded darkness, a prisoner in a cage of comfort. The initial, shocking cold has long since retreated, replaced by a deep, pleasant warmth that you yourself have created. The bed has become a cozy nest, a pocket of thermal peace in the cold, drafty room. Your work is, for the moment, done. Now comes the second, and perhaps more challenging, phase of your duty. Waiting. You must lie here, in this state of suspended animation, until you are summoned to leave. It might be minutes, or it could feel like hours. Time seems to stretch and warp in the silent, featureless dark. With no light to see, and no tasks to perform, your mind is left to its own devices. It begins to wander, drifting through the trivialities and observations of the day. It's a strange, internal monologue, a silent review of the small dramas and comedies of life in the servants' hall. You think about the new stable boy, a lanky lad from a nearby village, with an almost comical look of bewilderment on his face at all times. You mentally replay the argument between the two laundry maids over a missing bar of soap, a dispute of earth-shattering importance that was resolved, as always, by the terrifyingly calm intervention of Mrs. Gable. These thoughts are your own private territory, a small act of rebellion in a life that is almost entirely dictated by others. Here, in the master's bed, you are physically captive but mentally free. You can think whatever you want, and no one will ever know. You allow yourself a small, internal smile as you remember the head cook's face when he discovered a page. Boy had sampled one of the tarts meant for the high table. It was a look of such profound, theatrical betrayal. You'd think the boy had just confessed to treason. This is the fabric of your life, a tapestry woven from small moments, quiet observations, and the ever-present, low-humming gossip that is the lifeblood of the household. Court gossip, of course, is the most prized commodity. News filters down from the family and their guests, trickling through the ladies' maids and valets until it reaches the lower echelons, getting more distorted and more exciting with each retelling. You heard a snippet today that the Queen is displeased with a certain duke's choice of doublet. A piece of information that is both utterly meaningless and completely fascinating. Historians often rely on letters and official documents, but so much of the real, human story of the past exists in this lost world of whispers and rumors. The things people said when they thought no one important was listening. You shift your thoughts to the man whose bed you are currently occupying, the master. You rarely see him up close. You catch glimpses of him crossing the courtyard, or hear his booming voice echoing from the dining hall. To you, he is a figure of immense and distant power, more of a concept than a person. Yet here you are, in the most personal of his spaces. It's an absurd contradiction. You know the scent of his pipe tobacco, the weight of his blankets, the softness of his pillows. You know these intimate, sensory details of his life, but you do not know him. You wonder about his life, his worries. Does he lie awake in this very spot, in the warmth you've created for him, and worry about the harvest, about politics, about the favor of the king? Does he ever feel the same bone-deep weariness that you feel at the end of the day? It seems impossible. His life is one of velvet and wine, yours of stone and small beer, and yet he is still just a man who gets cold at night. This shared, simple vulnerability is a strange and slender thread connecting your two vastly different worlds. A quirky detail you've picked up from whispers among the upper servants is his peculiar fondness for marzipan. He apparently has a small box of it delivered to his study every evening. Tiny, sculpted fruits and animals made of almond paste and sugar. The thought of this large, powerful, stern-faced man secretly nibbling on a tiny sweet pig is so incongruous that it's almost funny. It's a humanizing detail, a small crack in the formidable facade. Asterisk, the silence in the bedchamber is profound. It's a thick, heavy silence, not just an absence of noise. You try to keep your breathing as quiet and even as possible. You are a ghost, a warm specter. The art is to leave no trace of your presence, save for the lingering heat. No scent, no indentation in the pillow, no sound. You are the opposite of Goldilocks. You are there to make the bed just right, but to do so without ever being detected. Your success is measured by your invisibility. For now, you are just a mind adrift in the quiet dark, a silent observer in a world not your own, waiting for the next signal that will guide your strange, nocturnal dance. Time continues to dissolve in the warm, silent darkness of the bed. You have lost all sense of how long you have been lying here. It could be 10 minutes or an hour. Your world has shrunk to the size of this velvet-draped space, and your only connection to the house beyond is through your hearing. Lying perfectly still, with nothing to see or do, your ears become your primary sense, and you begin to notice sounds you would otherwise ignore. The house, which had seemed so silent, is actually alive with a subtle, secret symphony of noises. Asterisk, you can hear the soft, almost imperceptible groan of the great wooden beams in the ceiling as they settle. The house is old, a vast timber-framed creature, and it is constantly shifting and groaning in its sleep, adjusting its ancient bones. There is a faint, high-pitched whistling sound that comes and goes. It's the wind, finding a tiny, invisible gap in the leaded glass of the chamber window, a lonely sound that speaks of the cold, dark world outside. It makes the warmth you are cocooned in feel even more precious, like a small, defiant act against the vast indifference of the night. Asterisk. Then you hear a new sound, a tiny, frantic scratching from within the walls. Mice, of course. Every house of this age, no matter how grand, is riddled with them. They are the true, permanent residents, living in the spaces between, running their own errands in the dark. You imagine them, a secret, parallel society, scurrying through the lath and plaster, completely oblivious to the human dramas of status and wealth playing out just inches away from them. To a mouse, the master of the house is just a loud, heavy footstep to be avoided. It's a strangely comforting thought. Asterisk, this is a historical fact that often gets glossed over in romantic depictions of the past. The sheer amount of non-human life sharing these spaces. It wasn't just mice and rats. It was spiders, beetles, flies, fleas, and a whole host of other creatures. The modern notion of a sterile, pest-free home is a very recent invention. For most of history, humans have cohabited with a menagerie of tiny, uninvited guests. The constant battle against them was just another part of daily life, like fetching water or lighting a fire. Asterisk, your ears prick up at a different sound, this one from further away. It's a deep, resonant bong, a single, solemn note that seems to vibrate through the very floorboards. The great clock in the main hall, striking the hour. You try to count the chimes that follow, but they are too faint, too muffled by the layers of wood, plaster, and fabric that separates you from the sound. Was that 10 o'clock? 11? It's impossible to be sure. The clock gives you a sense of time, but a vague, imprecise one. It's a reminder that the world outside your velvet cage is still turning, that the night is progressing. Asterisk, then comes a sound from much closer, a soft thump from somewhere in the room, just beyond the curtains. You freeze, every muscle in your body tensing. Your heart hammers against your ribs. Has he entered? Did you somehow miss his approach? You strain your ears, listening with an intensity that is almost painful. Silence, long drawn-out silence. Then, another, softer thump, followed by a faint rustling. You slowly, mentally, map the sounds. It's coming from near the fireplace. A log, settling on the grate as it burns. Of course, a fire would have been lit in the hearth hours ago to take the chill from the room, and it is now slowly dying down. The sound is just the fire breathing its last. Asterisk, you relax, letting out a breath you didn't realize you were holding. The relief is immense. It was a false alarm, but it's a stark reminder of your precarious position. You are an intruder, an illegal occupant of this space, and the constant, low-level fear of discovery is the price you pay for this strange, warm job. Historians can only speculate on the consequences of being caught. A severe reprimand, dismissal. It would depend entirely on the master's mood, his temperament. The uncertainty is the worst part. Your fate could hang on something as trivial as whether he'd had a good hand at cards that evening. Asterisk, you refocus on the sounds, now filtering them through this new layer of awareness. You can hear the fire more clearly now that you're listening for a taut, gentle crackle and hiss. It's a comforting domestic sound, a companion in the darkness. You lie there, suspended in the warm bed, listening to the secret night sounds of the house, the wind at the window, the mice in the walls, the dying fire in the hearth, and the slow, steady beat of your own heart. Each sound is a tiny anchor to reality, a thread of connection to the world you are temporarily hidden from. Asterisk, the sounds of the house have faded back into a low, ambient hum, and your mind, now accustomed to the darkness and the waiting, begins to drift again. You are lying in what is arguably the most private space in the entire manor, yet you are governed by a strict and unspoken set of rules. This is the etiquette of invisibility, a silent code of conduct for a job that officially doesn't exist. You are present, but you are not here. It is a performance of nothingness. Asterisk, the first and most important rule is silence, which you are already practicing with a monk-like discipline. But it's more than just not speaking. It's about not existing in any audible way. This means controlling your breathing, stifling a cough or a sneeze should one dare to arise. You once felt a tickle in your throat while on duty, and spent what felt like an eternity engaged in a silent, desperate battle of will, swallowing repeatedly and pressing your tongue against the roof of your mouth until the sensation passed. The panic was real. A single loud cough could shatter the illusion and expose you. Asterisk, the second rule concerns scent. As you know, part of your qualification for this job is your cleanliness. But it goes beyond that. You are forbidden from wearing any kind of scent yourself. No pomanders, no sachets of herbs in your pockets. The room must smell of the master, and only the master. Your presence must be olfactorily neutral. You are to be a scent-free specter. This is why you always take care that your clothes are aired out and have not retained the smell of the kitchen's cooking smoke or the stable's pungent aroma. You must import nothing of your world into his. Asterisk, the third rule is about stillness. You are not just lying here. You are lying here in a very specific way. You must stay in the center of the bed, creating a large, even patch of warmth. You are not to curl up on one side or steal a pillow for your own comfort. The pillows are to remain pristine, untouched. You must not leave the impression of a head on the pillow or the distinct shape of your own sleeping body in the mattress. When you leave, the bed should look as if it has been warmed by a magical, disembodied force, not by a tired servant. Asterisk, this leads to a quirky historical debate. Did bed warmers like you lie on top of the covers, or under them? The evidence is non-existent, so historians are left to logical deduction. Lying on top would be less effective, as most of the heat would radiate upwards and be lost. It would also be far less comfortable for you. Lying under the sheets, as you are now, is the most thermally efficient method. It traps the heat exactly where it's needed. The risk, of course, is that you might accidentally fall asleep. This is the cardinal sin of bed warming. Falling asleep would mean you might not hear the signal to leave. You might still be here when the master arrives, A scenario so mortifying it barely bears thinking about. Asterisk, to combat this, you have developed a series of mental tricks. You recite lists in your head, all the counties of England, the names of the kings in order, the ingredients for the cook's famously dense fruitcake. You focus on the physical sensation of the bed, the slight pressure of the blankets, the lingering cold spots near the edges. You keep one part of your mind constantly alert, an internal sentry listening for the sounds that will signal the end of your shift. Asterisk, you think about the man who will soon occupy this space. You are, in a very real sense, preparing his dreams. By making his bed a sanctuary of warmth and comfort, you are smoothing his transition into sleep. It's a strange form of service, deeply intimate, yet utterly anonymous. He will benefit from your presence, your very life force, without ever having to acknowledge you exist. It is the ultimate expression of the master-servant relationship. His comfort is built upon your discomfort, your stillness, your self-effacing vigilance. Asterisk, you wonder if he even thinks about how the bed gets warm. Does he simply take it for granted, like the sun rising or the fire being lit? Or is he aware of the strange, silent ritual that precedes his slumber? Perhaps he knows, but it's a knowledge he keeps tucked away, a detail too mundane or too awkward to contemplate. It's easier to accept the magic of a perpetually warm bed than to picture a living, breathing person lying in the dark, waiting for you. The etiquette of your job requires you to be invisible, but perhaps it requires him to be willingly blind as well. The whole system only works if everyone involved agrees to pretend you are not really here. You are in the middle of a mental recitation of every single task you performed today, from fetching the water at dawn to polishing the brass handles on the sideboard when a new sound cuts through the quiet of the chamber. It's not a loud sound. It's subtle, discreet, and from just outside the heavy oak door, it's the soft, dry sound of a single, deliberate cough. Asterisk. This is it. The signal. Asterisk. It's not the master. His cough is a deep, chesty affair, the product of years of pipe smoke and rich food. This is a lighter, more delicate sound. It's the cough of his personal valet, a man named Thomas, who is as meticulously put together as the master is imposing. Thomas is the gatekeeper, the final piece of the elaborate machinery of the master's bedtime routine. While you have been in here, warming the bed, Thomas has been downstairs, helping his lordship out of his formal doublet and into a comfortable woolen dressing gown. He has brought him a final cup of spiced wine, and now he has escorted him to the top of the stairs and has come ahead to perform the final check. Asterisk. You hear the faint scraping of a key in the lock. This is a peculiar detail of the arrangement. While you can let yourself into the room, the valet locks the door from the outside once you are in. It's a security measure, though for whose security, you've never been entirely sure. Is it to ensure no one else can wander in? Or is it to ensure you don't wander out? It's one of the many unspoken, slightly unnerving aspects of the job. Asterisk. The lock gives a heavy clunk as it's turned. The sound is loud in the silent room. You lie perfectly still, your body rigid. The door opens with a soft creak, and a thin sliver of wavering candlelight penetrates the velvet darkness of the bed curtains. You can't see anything, but you can feel the slight change in the atmosphere. The air shifts. Someone has entered the room. Asterisk. You hear the soft, almost silent footsteps of the valet as he moves about the chamber. He is a man who prides himself on his ghost-like efficiency. You hear a faint clink of metal on ceramic as he likely places a cup of water on the bedside table. You hear the rustle of fabric as he turns down the coverlet and blankets, exposing the top sheet in preparation for the master's arrival. He is doing this just on the other side of the velvet curtain, mere feet from where you lie. Your proximity to him is terrifying. You hold your breath, praying that he doesn't have some reason to pull back the curtains himself. Asterisk. This is the moment of greatest risk. The entire operation relies on a silent, coordinated dance between you, the valet, and the master, a dance where none of the partners ever touch. Historians who study the lives of servants call this body work, the intimate physical tasks performed on or for the bodies of the wealthy. From dressing them, to bathing them, to this, warming their beds. It required an incredible level of discretion and an ability to read nonverbal cues. Your signal to leave is one such cue, a piece of a silent language understood by everyone involved. Asterisk then. You hear the signal meant just for you. Asterisk, it's another rustle of fabric, but this one is different. It's a quick, deliberate flicking sound. The valet is snapping the edge of the linen sheet. Flick, flick. It's a sound that has no other purpose than to be a signal. It's quiet enough not to be alarming, but distinct enough to cut through the other noises. It is the nonverbal, discreet way of saying, the bed is sufficiently warm. Your work is done. Leave now, and be quick about it. Asterisk, the moment you hear it, a wave of relief washes over you, so profound it almost makes you dizzy. The waiting is over. The tension that has been holding your body rigid for what feels like an eternity can finally begin to dissipate, but you can't relax yet. The most technically difficult part of your job is about to begin. The exit. Asterisk, you hear the valet's soft footsteps moving away from the bed, towards the door. He is giving you the space and the moment you need to make your escape. You hear the door creak open again. He is now standing in the doorway, waiting for you to be gone before he fetches the master from the end of the hall. The clock is ticking. Every second you remain in this bed increases the chance of a disastrously awkward encounter. It is time to go. The warmth you have so carefully cultivated is no longer yours. It is a gift you must now leave behind. Asterisk, the valet's signal, the sharp snap of the linen sheet still hangs in the air, a silent, urgent command. The time for stillness is over. Now, you must move, but with the stealth and precision of a cat. This is the great irony of your job. After an hour of forced immobility, you must now perform a feat of quiet agility. The awkward and silent exit is, in many ways, the most skillful part of the entire performance. Asterisk, you begin by slowly, deliberately, moving your arms from on top of the covers to under them. Every rustle of the fabric sounds like a thunderstorm in your own ears. You slide your hands down your sides, pressing the blankets down to minimize their movement. Your heart is doing a frantic, fluttering dance against your ribs, a mix of adrenaline and the fear of getting it wrong. One clumsy move, one loud creak of the bed frame, and the whole charade comes crashing down. Asterisk, your first major obstacle is getting out from under the weight of the bedding. The coverlet, the woolen blankets, the linen sheets together, they feel as heavy as a lead apron. You can't just throw them off. The movement must be a slow, controlled peel. You use one hand to lift the edge of the layered bedding, creating a small tunnel. Then, with the agonizing slowness of a snail, you begin to slide your body sideways, inch by inch, towards the edge of the bed and the gap in the velvet curtains. Asterisk, the feather bed, which was so luxuriously comfortable just moments ago, is now a treacherous enemy. It's so soft that any movement causes a series of muffled whooshes and sighs as the air and feathers redistribute. You try to move your weight gradually to avoid any sudden compressions that might make a noise. It feels like you're trying to sneak out of a giant, sleeping lung. This is a lesser known but very real challenge of the job. The beds themselves were noisy. The rope-sprung frames, the straw-stuffed mattresses, the feather beds, they were all prone to creaks, groans, and rustles. A truly silent exit was a mark of supreme professional skill. Asterisk, you reach the edge of the mattress. Your legs are now dangling over the side, your feet searching for the floor. You find it the shock of the cold floorboards a sudden, bracing return to reality. Now, for the most critical part, transferring your weight from the bed to the floor without making the bed frame creak. You hold your breath, tense every muscle in your core, and slowly, with the grace of a terrible mime, you lift yourself off the mattress. The bed lets out a tiny, almost inaudible sigh as your weight is removed. You freeze for a heart-stopping second, listening. Nothing. The valet in the doorway has either not heard it or has chosen to ignore it. Asterisk, you are now standing, free of the bed, shrouded in the darkness between the mattress and the heavy velvet curtains. You have successfully extracted yourself from the warm cocoon. You feel a small, private surge of triumph. But you're not out yet. You still have to get out of the room. You carefully gather your shoes, which you left nearby. You don't put them on. Carrying them is much quieter than wearing them on the creaky floorboards. Asterisk, you find the gap in the curtains and slip through, emerging back into the vast, shadowy space of the bedchamber. The valet is a silhouette in the doorway, his back mostly to you, a study in feigned ignorance. He is looking down the hall, pretending to be absorbed in something, granting you the dignity of an unseen escape. This is part of the silent contract, the shared understanding that makes this whole bizarre ritual possible. He knows you're there, and you know he knows, but you both participate in the fiction that you are invisible. Asterisk, you do not head for the main door where he is standing. That is not your exit. There is another, smaller, much plainer door on the far side of the room, partially hidden by a heavy tapestry. It's a servant's door, a joggling door, designed to allow servants to enter and exit a grand room without being conspicuous. Historians note, these were common features in great houses, a physical manifestation of the desire to have service be as invisible as possible. Asterisk, you pad across the room in your stockinged feet, a silent shadow moving through other shadows. The floorboards beneath the rug groan softly under your weight, and you wince with every sound. You reach the tapestry, pull it aside, and find the simple iron latch of the hidden door. It opens not into the main corridor, but into the same narrow, dark service passage you used to ascend. It is your rabbit hole, your escape route back to your own world. You slip through, pulling the door gently closed behind you. The latch clicks into place, and you are plunged back into the familiar, cold, damp-smelling darkness of the service corridors. The performance is over. The moment the servant's door clicks shut behind you, you are back in your own territory. The air immediately changes, becoming colder, heavier, and smelling of stone dust and something vaguely of damp earth. The abrupt transition from the relative warmth and perfumed air of the master's chamber to this stark, chilly passage is a physical shock. You lean against the rough stone wall for a moment, letting out a long, silent breath you feel like you've been holding for the last hour. The adrenaline that has been coursing through your veins begins to ebb, leaving a profound sense of weariness in its place. The job is done. Now, all that remains is the long, lonely journey back to your own bed. Asterisk, you are in a narrow, spiraling staircase, one used exclusively by servants. It's a tight corkscrew of worn stone steps, barely wide enough for one person to pass. There are no windows, no torches on the walls. The darkness is absolute. You fumble in your pocket for your flint and steel. You need to relight your candle, but your hands are clumsy, with cold and lingering tension. You strike the flint against the steel. Once, twice. A pathetic spark flies off, and dies. On the third try, a spark catches the tiny piece of charred linen tinder you carry in a small pouch. It glows a faint, angry red. You gently blow on it, coaxing the ember into a tiny flame, and use it to light the wick of your tallow candle. Asterisk, the flame sputters to life, pushing back the oppressive darkness by a few feet. Your shadow, hunched and distorted, leaps onto the curved wall beside you. Holding your precious light aloft, you begin your descent. Unlike the grand, sweeping staircase in the main house, this one is treacherous. The steps are uneven, and some are worn into dangerous, shallow bowls from centuries of use. You place each foot with care, one hand braced against the cold, curving wall for balance. This is the unglamorous backside of the great house, the part that is purely functional, built for durability, not for beauty. Asterisk, as you spiral downwards, you pass other small, unmarked doors. Each one leads to a different part of the house: a linen closet, another bedchamber service entrance, a passageway to the nursery. The house is a honeycomb, and you are moving through its hidden architecture. You think of the master, who by now is probably climbing into the bed you just left. He will slip into the pocket of warmth you created, pull the covers up, and sigh with satisfaction. He will have no idea of your silent, tense exit, or your careful, spiraling descent through the guts of the house. Your contribution to his comfort is complete, and you have vanished. Asterisk, the stone walls feel colder and damper the further down you go. You can feel the chill seeping through the soles of your stockings and the thin fabric of your clothes. The warmth you absorbed from the master's bed feels like a distant memory, a temporary loan that has now been fully repaid. Your own body feels achy and cold. A widely accepted historical fact is the sheer physicality of servant life. Everything involved lifting, carrying, walking, and standing for punishingly long hours. There was no light duty, your journey down these stairs, after a long day and a tense evening, is just one more small physical tax on your body. Asterisk, you finally reach the bottom of the spiral staircase, which lets you out into the familiar ground floor service corridor near the kitchens. The house is now profoundly silent. The fire in the servants' hall will have been banked for the night. The last of the staff long since retired to their beds. The only sound is the faint, rhythmic dripping of that leaky water barrel you passed earlier. A lonely, steady beat in the vast quiet. Your footsteps, even on the flat flagstones, seem to echo loudly in the stillness. Asterisk, you feel a pang of hunger. Your dinner of humble pie feels like a lifetime ago. You are tempted to sneak into the pantry. You know where the cook hides the leftover bread, and, if you're lucky, a small wedge of cheese. It's a risky proposition. If Mrs. Gable were to find out, the consequences would be severe. Pilfering food was a serious offense. Tonight, the exhaustion wins out over the hunger. The desire for your own bed, no matter how humble, is stronger than the desire for a midnight snack. Historians often debate the extent of the take. The unofficial system of leftovers and cast-offs that servants considered a perquisite of their job. Was a bit of bread a firing offense, or an unspoken part of the compensation? It likely varied wildly from house to house. A constant negotiation between stern housekeepers and hungry servants. Asterisk, you continue your journey. Your single candle flame, a lonely star in the immense darkness. You are a ghost in your own right, haunting the quiet passages. Your only purpose now, to find your way back to your own small corner of this world, and finally, rest. Asterisk, your journey through the silent arteries of the house is almost at an end. You pass through the now empty servants' hall, a cavern of shadows where the great fireplace holds only a faint, pulsing red glow. The long tables are stark and empty, the benches pushed back against them. The ghosts of the day's noise and activity have been chased away by the deep, heavy silence of the approaching midnight. You don't linger. The hall feels too large and empty now, a lonely, echoing space. Your destination lies beyond it. In the warren of small rooms and dormitories where the lower servants sleep. Asterisk, you walk down one final, short corridor, this one with rough wooden walls instead of stone. The air is stuffy here, thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, damp wool, and the faint, unmistakable scent of straw. You have reached the servants' quarters. This is the least prestigious, most crowded part of the house, tucked away where no guest would ever stumble upon it. The contrast with the master's chamber is so stark it's almost laughable. There, the air was perfumed with tobacco and beeswax. Here, it smells of honest, human exhaustion. Asterisk, you stop before a low, simple plank door. There is no lock, just a wooden latch. This is your room. Well, not your room. You share it with 3 other maids. Privacy is a luxury as unattainable as a silk dress. You lift the latch as quietly as you can, wincing as it makes a soft wooden click, and push the door open. You slip inside, closing it gently behind you. The room is tiny, barely large enough for the 4 narrow pallets that line the walls. There is one small, unglazed window, currently covered by a threadbare wooden shutter that does little to keep out the drafts. There is no fireplace. The only heat is the residual body heat of its occupants. Your 3 roommates are already fast asleep, huddled under their thin, scratchy wool blankets. You can hear their soft, rhythmic breathing, a chorus of quiet exhaustion. One of them, a young laundry-maid named Alice, murmurs something in her sleep and turns over the straw in her mattress, rustling loudly in the silence. This is your world. This is your reality. And now, your own bed awaits. You look at it. It's a simple canvas sack, known as a palliasse stuffed with straw. It lies directly on the floorboards in the coldest corner of the room. This is a known, quirky detail of the servant hierarchy. The newest or lowest ranking person in a shared room often got the worst spot, farthest from the door and most exposed to drafts. Your pallet is lumpy, and you know from experience that some of the straw stalks will inevitably poke through the canvas during the night. It is the absolute antithesis of the master's glorious featherbed. You sit on the edge of your pallet, the straw crackling under your weight. The floorboards are icy cold against your feet. You finally pull off your stockings and woolen clothes, your movements slow and heavy with fatigue. You are chilled to the bone. The warmth you so carefully cultivated in the master's bed is a distant, almost mythical memory. It seems impossible that just an hour ago you were lying in a cocoon of perfect, downy warmth. That bed and this bed might as well exist in different universes. You have one thin wool blanket. It's coarse and smells faintly of dampness, but it's yours. As you lie down on the rustling straw, you pull the blanket up to your chin. The cold is immediate and familiar. Unlike the master, you have no one to warm your bed for you. You must generate your own warmth, a slow, shivering process that will eventually lead to sleep. You curl into a tight ball, tucking your hands between your knees, trying to make yourself as small as possible to conserve heat. This is the ultimate irony of your job. You are a purveyor of warmth, a professional bringer of coziness, yet you end your day in a cold, drafty room on a pile of straw. Historians sometimes refer to this as the emotional labor of service, not just the physical work, but the requirement to facilitate the comfort and well-being of others, often at the expense of one's own. You provide a luxury you will never experience yourself. You lie there, listening to the breathing of your roommates and the faint whistle of the wind through the cracks in the window shutter. You can feel the lumps in the mattress pressing into your back and hip. You think of the master, snug in his velvet-draped fortress, drifting off to sleep in a sea of warmth. Does he have any concept of this? Of this cold? Of this straw? Of this shared, stuffy room? Almost certainly not. Your 2 worlds touched for a brief, strange moment tonight, but now they have spun back into their separate, distant orbits. And as you lie here, shivering slightly, waiting for your own body to generate enough heat to finally let you sleep, you are more aware of that distance than ever. You lie curled in a tight ball on your straw pallet, a small island of shivering humanity in the cold, dark room. The day's events are replaying in your mind, not as a clear narrative, but as a collage of sensory fragments. The smoky smell of the servants' hall, the heavy weight of the master's velvet curtains, the shocking cold of the linen sheets, the frantic, silent panic of your escape. It all feels dreamlike now, a strange story that happened to someone else. The only thing that feels real is the cold floorboards beneath you and the sharp, earthy smell of the straw. Your body aches with a weariness that is bone deep. It's not just the fatigue from a long day of physical labor, but the mental exhaustion of hours spent in a state of high alert. a forced stillness and silence. Your mind feels both tired and wired, a common paradox of the profoundly exhausted. You try to consciously relax your muscles, which are clenched tight against the cold. You start with your shoulders, letting them slump, then your back, trying to let the lumpy mattress support you rather than fighting against it. Asterisk. The breathing of your 3 roommates provides a steady, rhythmic soundtrack to the darkness. It's a strangely intimate sound, the most basic sign of life. You know their individual rhythms. Alice, the young one, breathes in soft, quick puffs. Mary, who works in the dairy, has a slower, deeper breath, while Elspeth, the seamstress, snores with a faint, delicate whistle. These sounds are the backdrop to your nights, a constant, living presence in the shared darkness. In a way, it's a comfort. You are not alone in your exhaustion. The entire house, from the master in his feather bed to the stable hands in the loft, is succumbing to the same universal need for rest. Asterisk. You think about the warmth. It's the central theme of your night. You spent hours creating it, cultivating it, only to leave it behind. Now you must conjure it for yourself, from your own depleted resources. You focus on your own breath, feeling the warm air, leave your lungs and hit the cold wool of your blanket. You pull the blanket up over your head, creating a small tent. The air inside immediately becomes warmer, smelling of your own breath and the faint, dusty scent of the wool. It's a small, simple trick, but it works. A tiny pocket of warmth begins to form around your face. Asterisk. This is the great equalizer, sleep. It's a debt that must be paid by everyone, regardless of station. The master, for all his wealth and power, cannot command sleep to come. He can only create the perfect conditions for it. A quiet room, a safe house, a warm bed, a bed that you prepared. There is a strange, satisfying symmetry to it. Your final act of the day was to pave the way for his slumber, and now, your own body's final task is to do the same for you. Asterisk. Historians often wonder about the dreams of people in the past. What did a Tudor servant dream about? Did you dream of food? Of warmth? Of a life different from this one? Or were your dreams, like most people's, a chaotic jumble of the day's anxieties and observations? A phantom scent of scorching linen, the face of a disapproving housekeeper, the endless, spiraling descent of a stone staircase. Asterisk. As you lie there, in your small, self-made pocket of warmth, the edges of your thoughts begin to soften and blur. The sharp anxieties of the evening, the fear of being caught, the pressure to be silent are finally receding, washed away by the encroaching tide of sleep. The day is done. The service has been rendered. The warmth has been transferred. Your role in the great, complex machine of the house is over until the sun rises. The sounds of your roommate's breathing become a lullaby. The whistle of the wind outside becomes a distant, meaningless murmur. Your own breathing deepens, slowing to match the rhythm of the sleeping room. You are no longer a bedwarmer, no longer a servant, no longer a collection of aches and worries. You are just a body, finally, giving in to the pull of sleep. The straw is no longer poking you. The cold is no longer a threat. There is only the darkness and the promise of a few hours of absolute, blessed oblivion. Asterisk. The day is now completely gone, folded away into the past. All of its tasks, its small worries and hurried moments, are finished. They are over. There is nothing left for you to do, nothing left to think about, except the simple, gentle act of letting go. Asterisk. Feel the weight of your own body, the gentle pressure of it against the surface beneath you. Allow yourself to sink a little deeper, to release the tension you didn't even know you were holding in your shoulders, in your jaw, and the tiny muscles around your eyes. Each breath you take is a soft, quiet wave, and each breath you release carries away a little more of the day. Breathing in, a sense of calm. Breathing out, a sense of release. Asterisk. Your mind, which has been so busy, can finally be quiet. Imagine its thoughts are like leaves, floating on a slow, gentle river. You don't have to grab onto them or follow where they go. You can simply watch them drift by one, until they float out of sight around a distant, quiet bend. The river just keeps flowing, slow and steady, carrying everything away into the peaceful darkness. Asterisk, there is only the sound of your own breathing now, the softest and most ancient rhythm you know. It is the sound of rest, the sound of safety, the sound of your body taking care of you, even when you are not paying attention. Trust in that rhythm. Let it be the only thing in your world. Let it guide you down, 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 into the soft, deep, and welcoming quiet of sleep. There is nothing else you need to do. Just rest now. Just sleep.